clear one, you still have to look pretty, so you can't soak in the bone. And then. We're not talking about this point, I'm talking back to Halacha. No, I'm talking back to Halacha right now. The Halacha will talk about it. First, you don't have to like pretend to like smile and like and then if there's a great class the first time, I'm gonna start not yet.
I'll finish up.
Hey.
I don't think I did it.
Wait,
Dang,
so what are you doing?
it's finally.
Okay.
No,
I'm like, I was like, there's many things you will be getting to the issue that you have. It's like,
Okay. All right. So, out of Pesach, there are special halachas that are kept. So, just like on Chol Hamoed, we know that there are some halachas which are permitted, as we learned in the past, and some halachas, some acts of work which are not permitted. So, there's the same concept. A similar concept by Erev Pesach, that after Chatzos, after midday, we do not do certain malachas. So we'll see that in certain kehilas, in certain communities, they are makbid about it not to do malacha after Chatzos. Some communities were lenient. But today's day and age, everyone does keep these dinim. Everyone does not do malacha after chatzos. So we'll see. There's certain things that if you want to do, make sure to do it before chatzos. So, as we just mentioned, performing malacha, doing any work on Erev Pesach. So again, the night of B'dikas Chametz, that's this Thursday night, which is going to put things into perspective. Not this Friday, but next Friday, which is Erev Pesach, that's the day that we're talking about. Yes, we have Thursday night, that's when we learned all the halachas of checking for Chametz, so on and so forth. The next following day, there are certain halachas that, right, so you already checked your Chametz, you started aside, it came Friday in the morning, you davened, you took your Chametz, you burnt it, you said Kol Chamira, you said what it says in the Siddur about nullifying your chametz. So now we're holding right before chatzos. Let's check exactly what chatzos is, just so you have a perspective of the times. So today chatzos is no, it's not working. Okay. The location is off, and it's, I'm sure there's going to be a listing. You'll find out when Chatzos is. So from that moment, we'll see there are some things that we do not do. So it's brought down that somebody who goes ahead and does malacha on Erev Pesach, they do not see something called a simin bracha, meaning the work that they do, they're not going to be successful. They're not going to see blessing in their work. And even if somebody's doing it for free, it's also still not allowed to be done. But this is all for the Yisrael, the Yid, to do it by himself, but they're allowed to do it through a goy. Okay, so now we'll see exactly what that means. So a practical application of this halacha is, let's say you have workers in your house, or you have a company and you have workers finishing up their work. So you yourself are not doing anything, So the halacha is, it is permitted. Why? Because this that we say that you're not allowed to do work, it's only for a yid. But for a guy, even if they're not doing things which is for the purpose of Pesach, it's still allowed, even though they're doing it for you. So what does this include? For what are we not allowed to do? So if somebody is a tailor, right? They want to fix up clothing, they want to launder, they want to create new items, new vessels, new whatever items. A haircut is also very important. A haircut is also not allowed after Chatzos on Erev Pesach, whether you're doing it for yourself or somebody else. But to fix something, to do a malacha she'ena gemura, to fix something which is not a complete malacha, what's an example of that? For example, if you have a vessel or a utensil, it's not, you're not creating anything new, you're just fixing it up a little bit. That is allowed. Or if you have garments that ripped a little bit, you just want to touch them up, fix them to make sure they're presentable. That's also allowed if it's for the purpose of Yom Tov. But if somebody's hiring you to do that, you're not allowed. So again, anything which is a full malacha, to create a garment or to create a vessel, a utensil, so on and so forth, so that is not allowed after Chatzos on Erev Pesach. So Chatzos is midday. So anything after that, anything which is a full malacha, you're starting from scratch, you're creating something, that is not allowed. If you have just something to fix, you have a rip, a little tear in the garment, or you see you have a utensil that needs just a little bit of adjustment to fix it up a little bit, these things are allowed, but one is not allowed to be hired to do such work. So if somebody's hiring you, hi, can you please stitch up my shirt, for example, you're not allowed to do it. If somebody hires you to stitch up their shirt a little bit, there's a cut, whatever it is, you're not allowed to do it if they're paying you. It's only allowed to be done if you're doing it for free. Sorry, Erev Pesach. So Thursday night you do B'dikas Chametz. I'm saying for this year, this Friday, this coming Friday, not tomorrow, the week in a week. After Chatzos midday, there are certain things that we're not allowed to do. It's a little bit of a Yom Tov. It's already starting, so we're not allowed to do all the malachas that we normally are allowed.
Can you work?
Oh no, you can't work.
On Friday morning, you can't work?
Morning you could. After midday you can't. Yeah.
So after maybe like 12 p.m.?
So I want to check the time. I don't have the exact time, but if you go, there's My Zmanim, there's a website. It'll tell you when midday is for that day. I checked, but my location is off, so I didn't. Okay.
Today it's 1 o'clock is midday, so it'll probably be like 1:10.
Yeah, give or take. Yeah, give or take. So it's getting later. So after 1 something in the early. Yeah. So what happens if, remember we learned by Chalamai, it's something which is a davar ha'avid. If you don't do it, you're gonna get a loss. For example, if you don't do this and this, then because of that, not that you're not going to make profit, but you're actually going to take a hit in your business, for example, or your personal objects are going to be destroyed, whatever it is, right? It's called a davar ha'avid, something which is going to cause you a monetary loss. So then you are allowed to do it. It is allowed to be done on Erev Pesach after Chatzos. What about just strict business? So you're not doing any physical work, you're not creating anything, you're not working in the factory. If you're just doing business, does anyone remember what the halacha is by Chalamayder?
It depends, because if it gives you pleasure,
Oh,
then you can do it, and if it doesn't, then you should not be
so
doing
the
it.
answer is everyone gets pleasure from doing business because you're happy when you get a good deal, right? When you make a deal, you make a sale. These things, they're not real. You're not doing real work, and
It brings you some
Yeah, so then it is allowed to be done. So you're allowed to buy and sell. So all the stores here in Kingston, you'll see they're all going to be open. Why? Because to do business, to sell, to buy, to deal with merchandise, that there's no prohibition. Yeah.
Are you allowed to work for someone else's business?
Oh, excellent question. That is a very, very good question. So if you're just selling, we'll see in a second later on. What about if you're just working there? Very, very good. That's for the next halacha. We'll get there in a second. So this is a good point. This is all for the business owner. We'll see what the halacha is for somebody who's just an employee. So the business owner, they're allowed to be open. And now we have a question. Are they allowed to have the regular employees in the store? Or do they have to get specifically employees which are not Jewish? Very good question. What about writing? Are you allowed to write on Erev Pesach after Chatzos, after midday?
Depends, it's for your pleasure.
Yeah, the answer is it depends. So writing, ksiva, we know you're not allowed to do on Shabbos because ksiva, writing, is considered a malacha gemura. It is a real malacha. So you're not allowed to write for other people. But to write for yourself, if you have some divrei Torah, if you're going to say divrei Torah, or to write for yourself the halachas that you have to remember for the seder, stuff like that, that is permitted. Or to take notes for something, if you're not going to write it, then you're going to forget about it, and it's going to cause you a loss. That's also permitted. So the answer is yeah, it depends. So to write a professional letter, to write something which is actual work, that is not permitted. To write for yourself, the dvar Torah that you're going to say, so you don't forget it, or some halachas, so you'll be fresh, you'll know what to do. That's also allowed. Or to write down for yourself notes, so you remember after Pesach. If you don't, you're going to forget about it, and it's going to cause you a loss. So you are allowed to jot down those notes for after Pesach. What about for a worker? So this was a very good point that was brought up. So until now, we were discussing the boss. So the boss is allowed to have his business running. He's allowed to do business. What about for somebody who's a worker? Are you allowed to go to work? So the answer is like this. If somebody needs the money for Yom Tov, right? They need to cover their bills for the purpose of Yom Tov, or in general, their financial situation is not so good. They don't have, literally, that's translated, they don't have enough to eat. Then the answer is yes, you are allowed to work. Or if somebody needs funds for Yom Tov, you are allowed to work. Otherwise, one should not work on Erev Yom Tov. So even though somebody the question, even though somebody has a business, they themselves are allowed to work. So either they themselves should be manning the store, or they should have workers who are not Jewish, and that's fine. That's the two options. Yeah.
But how about if you're not your own boss, so you work like the bank or something like this?
Oh, very good.
Because
So
that's like different, so I
yeah.
can say like your boss, like
Correct.
I can work for.
Correct. Yeah. So the answer to that is it depends how the arrangement is. If you have days to take off, you should take off. You should definitely use that day to take off. If it's really negay that it's going to affect your job, and you're not going to have a job because of that, so then you go into the category of somebody. That's right. Who needs it exactly? So it depends on the arrangement. If it's one of those days that you're able to take off, you definitely should take off. If you're not able to, and it's actually going to affect your job, then that's a different story. So haircuts. So there's a mitzvah in general to go into Yom Tov fresh, right? To have special clothing, so on and so forth. There's a special mitzvah called Kavod HaRegel to honor the regel, and part of this halacha is taking a haircut. Now, there's a catch. You have to make sure to get the haircut before chatzos, because taking a haircut is called malacha, it's actual work. So whether you yourself are a barber, or if you yourself are a barber, you can't cut other people's hair after chatzos. And if you're the one getting the haircut, you have to make sure to do it before chatzos. If you missed the window, the only other option is to go to a non-Jewish barber, because for them it's not an issue to cut your hair. So you can only go to a non-Jewish barber, and you'll see out of Pesach, the non-Jewish barbers are very, very busy in very Jewish populated, highly Jewish populated areas, neighborhoods. You'll see that there's a big lineup for the non-Jewish barbers, because simply people are so busy getting ready for Yom Tov, they didn't have a chance to take a haircut. So it's not, you'll see, I don't know in Crown Heights, but definitely out of Crown Heights, in Borough Park and so on and so forth, you'll see there's long lineups. Now, if somebody, there is a Mishnah that says that 4 people, there's an exception to this rule, that there are certain people who are allowed to take a haircut on Chol HaMoed, which is only these 4 people: somebody who comes out of prison, somebody who was traveling a very, very long time, and today doesn't exist. Today there's airplanes, so back then you travel by foot. There's no way for you to get a haircut. Yeah. Okay. What about cutting your nails? Can anyone guess? Oh, so you should do it before chatzos. You should do it before chatzos. But if you forgot, then you actually can do it yourself. That's fine. The reason for that is because on Chol HaMoed, there are opinions that allow you to cut your nails on Chol HaMoed itself. And being that you're allowed to cut your nails on Chol HaMoed, according to some opinions, so Erev Pesach, which is much less strict, so Chatchila, you should do it before Chatzos, but after Chatzos, if it's after the fact, you are allowed to do it for Kavod Yom Tov, for the honor of Yom Tov. So this case, it's perfect. In this case, it works because Friday is Erev Yom Tov and Erev Shabbos, so you're lucky. You're saying on Chol HaMoed Erev Shabbos?
Yes.
Oh, that's a very good question. What about, this is for the halachas of Chol HaMoed, the chlal in general, what happens if during Chol HaMoed is a Friday and it's Erev Shabbos? So the answer is, if somebody is a makpid, they're always careful to cut their nails every single Erev Shabbos. So if Chol HaMoed, there's a Friday that falls Erev Shabbos, you are allowed to cut, there are poskim which allow to cut your nails on Kavod Shabbos. But the condition is that you do so every single Erev Shabbos. If you're always careful to cut your nails for the honor of Shabbos, so if it falls Chol HaMoed, there's a Friday within the days of Chol HaMoed, then you are allowed to cut your nails on Chol HaMoed itself. In polishing shoes, boots, whatever it is, are you allowed to do it before Chatzos? That's right. What happens if you missed the window? You were so busy preparing for Yom Tov, giving a matzah last minute, cleaning up, preparing food, whatever it is, and you didn't get a chance to polish your shoes. If you polish your shoes, what do? If you need to polish your shoes, you could do it afterwards. That's not a problem. And for sure, if it's just to clean it without polish, that's even much less of an issue. That you can even do after Chatzos, not a problem. What about mopping?
What time is it before
Chatzot is going to be after 1 something. I want to check.
1 p.m.
Not this Friday, the next week. It's going to be a little bit after 1. I don't have the exact time, but if you search myzmanim, I think .com, right? myzmanim.com.org.com, they'll have Chatzos. So mopping is allowed to mop. So even though for some people it may be strenuous, whatever it is, but this is not included in the malachas, which are not allowed to be done on Erev Pesach. Oh, this is a good halacha. What about somebody who is making for themselves jewelry? Can you do it after Chatzos?
yes, it brings you joy. It depends if it brings you joy.
So you are allowed to make jewelry. Yes, you are allowed to make jewelry. If this is a habit and this is what you do, and you make your own jewelry, you are allowed to do so. Even if you don't usually do it, but you want to do it this time, it is allowed after Chatzais on Erev Pesach. So if you want to make yourself a necklace, earrings, whatever it is, you're into this, you are allowed to do so, and you can do it in the regular way. You don't have to make it in any different way. And you can even do a professional job. That's not a problem at all. Yeah. What about laundry? Oh, very good. So laundry should be done before Chatzais. Laundry, it's important to be done before Chatzais. You should do it before midday. Afterwards, one should not do laundry, even if they're just doing it through a machine. But if just a part of the garment got dirty, let's say, you put it somewhere and a little stain got on it, so then that's fine. You can clean a little part of the garment. So you're not laundering the entire garment. You're just doing a portion of the garment. Or another option is, if you're really stuck, you are allowed to ask somebody who's not Jewish to turn on the machine for you. Right? So you'll set everything up, or if they're nice enough, they'll set everything up for you, and they turn on the machine. They're doing the laundry. That's also permitted. Yeah, so that is fine. And the same that we mentioned, that the people who are allowed to take a haircut on Chol Hamoed, those same people are allowed to do laundry on Erev Pesach, right? Somebody who came out of prison, or somebody came from overseas, they're traveling. So all these people that they simply didn't have the opportunity to do so beforehand, they are allowed to do laundry by themselves on Erev Pesach, after Chatzos. So as we mentioned earlier, one is allowed to fix up a garment. So you're not creating a new baggage, you're not creating a new garment. You are allowed to touch up. If a button fell off, you're allowed to sew it in. If there was a rip in the dress, you're allowed to fix it. You're even allowed to do something called a maisa umon, a professional job. You're allowed to use the machinery for that. That's all allowed. But if you're creating new garments, you're putting different pieces of material together to create a garment, that's not allowed. So fixing up, touching it up to make sure that it's fine is allowed, but to create it is not allowed. It's not the over here, but you should know for the future. What about tying tzitzis on Erev Pesach? So when you have your own household in Mitzvah Shem, your kids ask you, you'll know the halacha. Are you allowed to tie new tzitzis on Erev Pesach? Answer is yes, you could. Yeah, you are allowed to. What's it called? To tie new tzitzis on Erev Pesach after Chatzos. There are different communities. They have a minhag. They have a custom that they have a certain crown on the talus. We have simple talosim. We don't have any special design on the top. Some communities do. So it is brought down that it is permitted to sew on this crown, literally, this atara for the talus. So it's not really for us, but if you know somebody, they are allowed to do so. And the reason is because you're not creating the garment. You're just adding on to it, which we said is allowed. You're allowed to fix up, to touch up a garment. This is not a problem. Okay, so as we mentioned before Chatzos, everything is allowed. There are some communities which do not do malacha on Erev Pesach. Before Chatzos, but it's accepted pretty much everywhere that we do malacha on Erev Pesach before the time of Chatzos. So that's not an issue. So there's a bunch of halachas. What happens if you yourself go from a place that you do malacha on Erev Pesach before Chatzos to a place where they don't do? most of this is not so relevant because most communities do malacha on Erev Pesach before Chatzos. This is an important halacha to know, to remember. Drawing blood on Erev Yom Tov.
Nice. Like
Are you allowed to do that on Erev Yom Tov? So it's actually brought down that we don't do so on Erev Yom Tov. It's brought down because of sakana, whatever it is. But the night before, you are allowed to. So it's halacha, it's brought down. It's an actual halacha on Erev Shavuos, and we don't do it. We don't draw blood on Erev Shavuos, but so the Chachamim apply this rule to every single Erev Yom Tov, that we don't draw blood on Erev Yom Tov, but the night already beforehand, that's not a problem. So again, it's not a regular blood test from the doctor is not what we're talking about. We're talking about when they have to take a lot of blood for whatever reason, and that is not allowed on Erev Yom Tov. Okay. The Gemara brings it down. The exact reason, I don't remember, but it's brought down that it's a sakana. Now, there's another halacha which is not so common. We don't have a Beis HaMikdash, unfortunately, and we're working very hard to bring Mashiach. And there's a prohibition of bringing karbanos outside of the Beis HaMikdash, right? Of sanctifying anything that is going to be brought as a carbon to the Beis HaMikdash. So there's a special halacha not to set aside meat for the Pesach. You can't say that this is for Pesach. Why not? Because it may look like you're sanctifying this for the carbon Pesach, for the sacrifice of the Pesach, which would mean problem. So somebody who has animals, they shouldn't say, oh, this animal, well, today it's not so common. So most people, you go to the store to buy meat, nobody has actual animals. I shouldn't say nobody, but most people don't have animals. They don't have a farm. If you do, so you have to be extra careful. But if you shecht your own animals, you should not say, this cow I'm shechting for the Pesach. Why? Because the prohibition that other people are going to see, and they're going to think that you're being makdish, you're sanctifying, you're setting this aside for the carbon Pesach.
What about grocery food?
Oh, very good.
Like a
Very, very good. Oh, we're going to see them in a second. That's right. Very, very good. And for the Zraya, right, we have on the Seder plate, we have a section for the Zraya, what's the English word? The bone, but shank.
Shank bone.
The shank bone, yeah, that's right, the shank bone. So you also have to make sure to say that it's not, that you're not roasting it for the sake of Pesach, because that looks, again, that you're roasting it as if it's a carbon Pesach. And also, one should not, if you're asking your friend, let's say, to go to the store for you, you can't tell them, take this money and buy me meat for Pesach. You should say, buy me meat for Yom Tov, for the same reason. So it shouldn't look that you're setting aside something to be brought as a carbon Pesach. But this all applies to meat. Anything which is not meat is not a problem. For example, fish, that's not a problem because you don't bring karbanos from fish. You're allowed to say, yeah, this fish is for Pesach, I bought it for Pesach. That's not a problem because there's nobody's going to think that you're setting it aside for the carbon. Okay, so we'll leave it aside. If after the fact somebody said it, he said, this, I'm saving this for Pesach, this is all the lechatchila, you're not allowed to do it, but after the fact, if it was done, you're still allowed to eat the meat because it's only a prohibition of something which is called maris ayin. The people may think that you're doing something which is not right. So if it's just maris ayin, after the fact, it does not forbid the meat. Okay. Also, this is an important halacha. In the same chapter, it's brought down, somebody should not say, oh, Pesach, to make fun of the preparations for Pesach. This is important. Why? Uh-oh.
Wait. Am I allowed to make fun of the way Chabad prepares for Pesach? Because technically it's a stringency, it's not just preparing for Pesach.
1 second, we'll see.
Okay, because like that's my whole brand right now.
So, why not? Well, what's the problem to say so?
Because
Because of the-
someone else's Yiddish thing.
Because there's four
It's my
sons.
Yiddish guy.
There's 4 sons in the Haggadah. One of them is the wicked son. And what does the wicked son say? What does this work to you? So he's making fun of the whole preparation. He's making fun of the whole mitzvah Pesach. So the wicked son, the Rasha in the Haggadah, right? There's 4 sons. What does the wicked one say? What does this work to you? What does he do? He's making fun of the whole thing. He's taking himself out of the cloud, taking himself out of everyone together. So you don't want to be part of that. So everything should be done with simcha. And it's actually brought down.
Oh, okay.
This is a very, very important thing. It's a big school. It's brought down that all the sweat, all the effort which is put in the preparations of Pesach is a big tikkun for a person. So the more you work, the more literally it's brought down the zayah, the actual sweat of working and preparing for Pesach. This actually fixes, it's a tikkun, it fixes all previous things also. It helps a person to cleanse himself, so to speak. Even better, for sure. It's an even better tikkun. It's an even better cleansing, so to speak. Okay, so those are not so common halachas, but they are halachas, and you should know that they exist, and for sure they have to be kept. So just want to discuss a few things by Hagalas Kalim, just to finish up a few small. How many people watched? Sorry.
Favorite Gebrauchs item.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
Only on Echad Shel Pesach, but I forget already from year to year.
All right, I'll ask you on that Monday.
Yeah, that's right.
Beautiful.
How many people watch the kashering? That's it.
Watch videos.
Watch videos. Okay, good. So it was brought down that the rabbi that came to the kasher is going to be in touch now.
Yeah, I mean,
To
yeah, I
explain.
got his number because I want to learn how to do it.
It's very, very kedai. It's very, very worth it to try to also be part of this, to touch base with this rabbi to get some actually hands-on training on how the kashering is done, because you can't compare just learning and hearing from a book to actually seeing what a professional is doing.
I just want to use a blowtorch.
Okay.
I mean, I'll be honest.
Okay. Ask him if he'll allow you. I don't know if he'll.
Nah, he said he's into it.
Yeah, okay, that's nice. Just this is, we'll leave that to the side. Okay, so just to summarize everything, out of Pesach, already the night before, when it comes nightfall, are you allowed to start learning?
No.
No, even learning you can't do, right? You can't sit down to have a
You're gonna
meal.
get so excited, and then you're gonna put off the mitzvah.
That's right. You're gonna get so immersed in your learning that you're gonna forget.
You should just sit there and twiddle your thumbs for 30 minutes.
That's
Like
right.
yes.
So when it comes to this coming, not the next week Thursday, in a week from now. Yeah. Next week Thursday night is B'dikas Chametz. So remember, half an hour before nighttime, you don't sit down for a meal, you don't start to do anything. That time you should be free in the dorm or wherever you're living, in your apartment, getting ready. When it hits nightfall, one should start doing B'dikas Chametz. So as we mentioned, it's printed in the Siddur. You make the blessing, Asheket Deshanu b'mitzvesa v'tzivanu al bir chametz. Then right away, you start searching for chametz. Any place where chametz is brought into. Even if you clean the place beforehand, you have to go and check. Anyone remember what we use?
A candle, a wooden spoon, and a feather.
Exactly. You have a candle, a wooden spoon, and a feather. You gather any chametz that you find. I'm sure you won't find anything. You only find the 10 pieces. You gather with a feather onto the wooden spoon, and should have a paper bag, the brown paper bags they have, put inside there. And that's what you should use. So you search every single room. Whatever is sold to the guy and is sealed off and you're not using, you do not have to check it. It's not yours. It's being sold for Pesach, so that you can leave. Everything else should be checked. After you did B'dikas Chametz, remember there's a little text that you have to say. It's called you're nullifying any Chametz that you have or that you didn't find. Right? So it's important that it should be said in the language that you understand. If it's English, Russian, Spanish, doesn't make a difference. You have to understand what you're saying. So make sure to say those few lines. The next morning, you wake up, you daven,
The bagel.
you could eat a bagel, make sure you don't do it in your house. Do it in a place where it's not going to come in contact with any of your Pesach preparations. After you ate, make sure to get all the crumbs off of you, that there's nothing left. Sreifas chametz, as we learned, there's a mitzvah to actually destroy the chametz that you have. So there's going to be in the front of 770 a big fire. So you're going to go there, take your bag that you found, throw it into the fire. And there's another few lines that you say. It's the same idea. You're nullifying absolutely everything. You have nothing to do with chametz. You are chametz free. Whatever is sold to the guy belongs to the guy. It has nothing to do with you. Anything that you don't know about, it's nullified. You have nothing to do with it. You are chametz free. It's Pesach. It's all nullified and ownerless. And you have to mean it. It's very important. Part of the mitzvah. That's why it has to be said in a language that you understand, because you actually have to mean it. You are declaring it's null and void. It has nothing to do with you. Okay, so then after that, you'll see there's a few more lines you say that you can say in whatever language you want. The main thing is the nullification is said in a language that you understand. And then you start preparing for Pesach. So, right, so you clean everything. Everything is ready to go. The seminary makes a seder for everyone here. How does it, or you go to families? How does it work?
The first seder's in the dorm, the second seder is out.
Is out. Okay, so the first seder. So, and everything's being prepared.
Yeah.
Okay, so everything being prepared. So you know what to do. You have the agadas. It's a proper time to use it out. When I was learning in Zalman Beis Medrash, we had a mashpia there, and he told us it's very important. You know, you're learning so much chassidus, and you can get carried away and think that Pesach is just a spiritual Yom Tov, that, you know, the Eibusher, there's Yesh Ma'ayin, and all these special things that happened. The Eibusher changed the whole, we became free, whatever, so on and so forth. You're learning the greatness on a spiritual level. So he says, don't forget to open up a chumash and read the actual physical miracles that happened. Hashem split a sea. Don't forget that literally, physically, Hashem took the Yam Suf and the Eibusher physically split it. So it's important with all the chassidus we learn to realize that this all physically happened. All of these miracles actually physically took place. Hashem changed nature for us. And it's a very, very special Yom Tov. And to use it out properly, and the Mitzvah Hashem, it should lead straight to the Geulah, even before the Yom Tov.